Welcome, everyone, to the Everything Show, episode 751. I am your host, Matrixlord212, and I'm with Chris. What's up, Chris?
What's going on, guys? Good afternoon.
All right, so this is our continuing Godzilla Resurgence Shin Gojira coverage, so let's go.
Okay, so I went back and watched the video, and thank you guys so much for all the views and support on that video as well.
Yes, we really appreciate it. Yes.
Yes, I went back and watched the video, and I was kind of upset with the way I presented the information. I didn't present it as clearly as I could have, mostly because I was kind of overexcited about what I read, and I was kind of trying to form what I thought about what I was looking at, what I was reading. So I apologize, guys. That was my fault. You guys deserve better, and that's why we're kind of doing this video now. I have more information about the movie. Again, I want to say take everything you hear right now with a grain of salt, even though this is all pretty much confirmed. But I'm talking about the new information that I have. Always take it with a grain of salt because we never know until we actually see the movie. But in my opinion, what we're about to go through is true and is what you will see, or what we will see in Godzilla Resurgence / Shin Gojira whenever we get to see that.
Spoilers.
Now, spoilers, yes. We'll put that in the title going in. So, as we said before, we'll run down what we went through before. The film does open in the Tokyo Aqua Tunnel, but there's a scene before that that shows the Coast Guard, the Japanese Coast Guard, I believe, finding a yacht that belongs to somebody. There's nobody on board, so they think that they're trying to figure out what happened. They think it might be a suicide, but they have no idea. So the boat is then rocked by a big explosion, and this is where we see the Tokyo Aqua Tunnel. Something collapses the tunnel, and all of this red fluid floods the tunnel. Gets on people. I guess it gets everywhere. They said there's a huge amount of this stuff, right? The government then in Japan convenes, and the main character, his name is Yaguchi. That's the main character. He's there, and he believes that while they're talking in the meeting, the big wigs there say it was probably volcanic activity or some type of seismic activity that collapsed the tunnel. But he says, I saw this stuff online. It looks like there's some sort of giant creature in the tunnel, and this is, of course, where they're like, "No, you're wrong. Stop talking. You're making a fool of yourself." And this was the scene I was referring to in the last video, where the guy who plays Yaguchi his facial expressions are just so good in everything I've seen so far. So they're like, yeah, it's probably volcanic activity, when suddenly a little bit later on, this giant tail comes out of the water, and they're like, "Oh shit, he was right. It is some sort of giant organism."
So they probably kicked him out, right? And then
no, they don't kick him out, but they just ridicule him. They're like, you don't know what you're talking about, shut up. But then they see this thing and they're like, "Oh damn, what
do you
the
have
hell?"
to say? Right.
Yeah.
What else do you have to say? Yeah.
Yeah. So they get on television, and they said that this was one of the. There's a lot more in this plot summary. There's a lot more of what the political subtext in this movie is. They said that there's a scene in the movie where I believe it was the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister gets on TV wearing like rescue gear, like he's going to go help with the tunnel accident and whatnot. Apparently this actually happened in Japan during the Fukushima disaster.
Wow.
Some big wig got on TV wearing rescue gear like he was going to go help, and he never did.
Oh.
So that was the thing. But they get on TV and they're like, "Guys, don't worry. Whatever this thing is, it's not going to attack the city. It's probably an aquatic life form that we've never seen before. We're going to handle it. Don't worry." Well, guess what happens? This thing attacks Tokyo. It's the tadpole form of Godzilla. And they said that it crawls around, and this is a correction that I have to make. From this article, it says he does not eat anybody. He kills people, but he doesn't eat anybody.
All right.
So this is clarified. This is, and I buy this because I think this is what's going on.
Right, so Godzilla doesn't eat anybody.
Exactly. They said he kills people, but it's because he's like thrashing around so much, because he's pushing himself on the ground. During this, the government is like, okay, we have to stop him. Send the self-defense force. We have to do something. But the prime minister doesn't give them authorization to fire. Apparently, this is another thing in Japan right now where they're not allowed to use force like this unless it's something really bad. So during this scene, Godzilla goes into his second form. He stands upright, he grows arms, and they said specifically he uses the 54 roar in this scene. He roars, eventually he goes back into the ocean, and he swims away. So at this point, the government goes back to Yaguchi, and they're like, listen, you're going to be in charge of researching this thing. Get anybody you need and find out what the hell this thing is. Find out if there's any more danger. What the hell is this red substance? Just find out what's going on. So he gets a whole bunch of younger people, and joining him is the female lead named Kyoko Ann Patterson, who is a Japanese-American liaison between America and Japan.
Okay.
And she says that the yacht at the beginning of the movie belonged to a zoologist who named the creature. He told America got word of his research because apparently he was researching some sort of strange seismic activity at the bottom of the ocean, and he linked it to some sort of massive creature.
Okay.
And he names the creature Gojira after a legend from his island home. In America, they call it Godzilla. So America knew about this before it attacked.
Okay.
So that's kind of interesting. Whatever. So
They knew about it, but they didn't cause it.
Apparently, no. The Godzilla's origin for this movie is apparently explained later, and it's actually a pretty decent origin. I actually like it a lot.
Okay.
So of course, like I said before, hijinks ensue. They're trying to figure out what the hell this thing is, and they do figure out what it is.
Okay.
Apparently, this creature, in this Godzilla, started out as these beings called mixotrophs, which are an actual real life form in the real world. Basically, what a mixotroph is it's a life form that can take in multiple different versions of energy to survive.
Okay.
So apparently these mixotrophs are ancient, and they were at the bottom of the ocean, which makes sense. And apparently they were reawakened, and they started consuming nuclear waste at the bottom of the ocean, which actually does happen. We do bury nuclear waste at the bottom of the ocean.
Okay.
Apparently these creatures mixed and formed one life form, being Godzilla, the tadpole Godzilla. So eventually, during they're researching this, and they're like, okay, Godzilla returns as the Shin Gojira that we see in the trailers. And they said that this is his final form in the movie. There is no other form that was reported before. This is what he looks like at the end of the movie. This is what we're dealing with.
Okay.
So the government tries to stop him. Nothing's working. The U.S. steps in and says, listen, we're going to nuke this thing. We're going to use a hydrogen bomb on this thing. You have 2 weeks to evacuate Tokyo, because that's where he's heading. You have 2 weeks to get everybody out of there, and we're going to nuke this thing. And the Japanese prime minister is like, okay. He's hesitant to do it, but he's like, all right, we'll do that, whatever. So, the U.S., before this, they're like, however, we're going to send in some conventional weaponry to try and stop him, try and help you stop him before we nuke him. So they're like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But they're still hesitant, but that's fine. So they trace Godzilla's path of destruction, and he's definitely heading to Tokyo. And in the way is where the prime minister and basically everybody big in the Japanese government is right now. So they're like, you get out of there. He's coming. Nothing's stopping him. So they all get out of there. They try to anyway. The U.S. bombers arrive while they're trying to get everybody out of there. And they bomb Godzilla. This is where they hit his spines, and he feels pain. This is when he does the whole beam, gas, fire, beam, back lasers, huge mega attack. Kills everybody in the Japanese government, destroys the U.S. bombers, wipes out pretty much the whole city.
Wow.
in an instant, basically, right?
Okay.
So they're like, well, damn, what do we do now? So a new prime minister, who I believe is the head of he's the minister of agriculture, apparently gets the new role as prime minister.
Okay.
And this is where some more things are revealed. Because Godzilla did all of this, he loses pretty much all of his energy and he goes into a hibernation mode, like we reported before. Apparently, this is something I can't stand from this design, from this Godzilla. He would be stuck in this form for 15 days.
15 days?
15 days. He would be stuck in a hibernation mode.
Vulnerable.
Because he used all of his energy. That
So
I'm not a big fan of.
So they're using the thing about that they made up with Superman, that Superman can use all his powers into one big blast, and then he's a normal human. They're doing it with Godzilla, where he's so friggin' weak that he has to go into Odin from Asgard is going into a sleep to restore himself, which is stupid. Okay.
Yeah, actually, that Superman example is pretty good. I never even thought of that. But yeah, that's basically what's going on here with this Godzilla. They then horrible. Say, and this is where we're starting to get into the stuff about this Godzilla I don't like, besides the jaw-splitting thing, the atomic breath, the back lasers, the tail laser. This is not stuff that I like. But apparently, this Godzilla, like I said, is made of a collection of mixotrophs. Apparently, they got inspiration from War of the Gargantuas, which is another Toho classic movie.
Yeah.
In that movie, they were afraid to blow up the Gargantuas because they could regenerate, and the separate pieces could regenerate into other Gargantuas.
Okay.
That is literally what is happening in this movie. They shot
the other Godzillas.
Well, this is that we don't see that in the movie as other Godzillas, but the pieces that fell off of him when they were attacking him, they apparently the Yaguchi and Kyoko and some of the other ones come to the conclusion that those pieces could regenerate into something else.
Oh, okay. Not necessarily Godzilla.
Not necessarily Godzilla, but into something else.
Shin Gojira or whatever.
That's what I'm thinking. Like they're going to be other Shin Kaiju or something like that.
Okay.
So the
but
US,
Godzilla could probably come back also, too.
Yes. So the US gets involved in like, listen, we're really going to nuke him now. You've got 2 weeks to get everybody out of there, or they're going to get caught in the blast. We're not playing around here. Because if there's going to be multiple creatures now, we got to contain
it's another blast now. Now they got another 2 weeks now.
Well, no, this is the same 2 weeks as before.
Okay.
So they're like, we're gonna do this, and that's gonna be it. Actually, I may have misspoke before. This is where they introduced the 2 weeks thing, not before. Before they were just saying we're gonna do conventional weaponry. That was my fault. I apologize. So Kyoko and Higuchi are like, we can't let them nuke him. We don't want Japan to be caught in another nuclear incident like we were in World War II. So Kyoko,
all politics,
right. So Kyoko uses a lot of her political connections, and she gets the U.S. to postpone the blast by 1 day so that they can implement a new plan the day before he wakes up. But the U.S. is like, okay, you can do this, but if it doesn't work, we're nuking him. We don't want to hear anything about it, right? Okay. So this is where they come up with the plan to use the coagulant to do that. So what they're going to do is they're going to wake him up. They're going to shock him. That they say that's exactly what happens. They shock him while he's sleeping. He wakes up. He's like, what the hell's going on? He uses his atomic blast again, uses all of his energy again, and they knock buildings over onto him to cause him to fall down. He can't get up, obviously, because his hands are so small. Mm-hmm. So at this point, they start pumping the coagulant into his body. And it works. He solidifies, and it works. And they're like, okay, it takes a bunch of attempts, but it works. And they said that this way that they stopped him is based off of a story from there's apparently this Japanese story called what is it, the Yashiori no Saki. I probably said that wrong, but in the story there's a demon called Orochi. They get him drunk with this stuff, this special sake, and they're able to defeat him that way. That's what because they pump this stuff into Godzilla's mouth.
Right.
So he solidifies from the inside out. So at the end of the movie, Yaguchi, he survives. Pretty much a lot of the main cast survive. the Americans say, listen, he's probably not dead. If he wakes up, we're going to nuke him. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's getting nuked. But right now, he's solidified. And Yaguchi says, we're going to rebuild the government, we're going to rebuild the destruction, yada, yada, yada. At the end of the movie, same thing. They do the close-up, and you see the humanoid creatures coming out of his tail. Solidified.
Humanoid creatures.
Solidified, yeah, like we said before.
Well, what about the pieces that broke off? That's going to be different. They're already going to be growing somewhere.
I'm assuming that's probably what's happening. That they didn't say anything in this in the information that I have. But this is basically the gist of the movie. That he is some sort of like stage 1 of a whole bunch of life forms, I guess. That's what they're planning with this. So there is definitely room for a sequel or sequels in here.
Gotcha. Which is that a bad thing or is it a good thing? I mean, we don't even know we don't know if we're gonna like it yet first. So.
I gotta say, like, this summary makes it sound better, but I'm still not a fan of this Godzilla. This Godzilla is still like bottom of the barrel to me. The character Godzilla.
We'll try to have an open mind. Well, again, guys, we really don't know when we're going to be able to see this because the U.S. release, I believe, is late 2016, right?
I believe it's October or November.
Yeah, so late. Yeah, so basically, we are not going to be able to do a review for many months. So we will review it when we see it. But unfortunately, we don't get to see it as early as they do because they made it and whatever. So
yeah,
we'll have to wait and see.
And right now, I mean, the reviews are good, but I keep seeing the same thing. It's like, yeah, this is a good movie. There's a lot of there's a lot of human scenes, and Godzilla's not that great. There's some people who really like it, and there's some reviewers who are saying not a great Godzilla.
Right. All right. And obviously, we'll find out, even before we see it, if they plan on doing a sequel, because I'm sure that if it makes tons of money, they will green light it right away, right? I mean, or they'll just be slow about it. What do you think?
Well, I don't really know. In the past, these things have been kind of slow, but it all depends on what they're going to do. If they have a plan to do sequels to Shin Gojira itself, we'll probably hear it pretty quickly. But if they're going to do kind of what they did with the Millennium series, where they're going to make another one, but it's not connected to Shin Gojira, that might take a little while.
So probably the title will be Shin Gojira versus Shin Ghidorah, right? Or something like that.
I mean, they don't have to. I mean, they could say it could be something like that, or
Shin Gojira versus Ghidorah. I mean,
it could be. I mean, they could be. I personally think they're going to introduce new kaiju. I think if they're going to do anything, they're going to introduce new kaiju, or they're going to do Shin versions of like Anguirus or Mothra or Ghidorah.
Right.
I don't know though. It all depends on whether
Shin
or not
meaning new.
New.
That's the definition, right? New,
it all depends on whether or not they want to make a sequel to Shin Gojira or make another Godzilla movie not connected to it, which is what I hope they do. I hope they make something.
I hope they do too. I hope they just do 2 separate series that could do that. We'll see. All right. When will we find the box office numbers? Probably not for a while, right?
I don't think we're going to find it for a little while. And we got to remember, too, I believe they go by tickets sold over there. So it's going to be a bit different than what we see here in America.
Yeah, I tried looking it up. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Meaning that they don't have anything. So.
Well, I mean, it came out, 2 days ago. So, I mean.
I know. Yeah. All right, guys, we'll keep you informed with any Godzilla news because we're huge fans. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Take care. Bye for now.